When the Threxian Empire received the automated transmission from Earth, they thought it was a joke. Attention all foreign vessels. You are now approaching Terran border space. Entry without authorization will be considered an act of aggression. Please stand by for polite annihilation. Polite annihilation. The words had caused laughter across the Galactic Council for an entire cycle. Surely these humans, the newly ascended primitives from a blue rock near Sol, were bluffing. After all, who announces annihilation politely? The Threxians, a proud species of scaled militarists, had conquered 5 star sectors by the time humans were still arguing about the proper way to make tea. They saw Earth as an easy conquest, a frontier resource to strip and subjugate. They ignored the warnings. They always did. Their supreme admiral, Korthal, sneered as his fleet of 4,000 warships drifted toward Sol. "Transmit message to Earth Command," he said. "Inform them their sovereignty is now revoked by order of the Threxian Dominion." A communications officer hissed a laugh. "Shall I add that we come in peace?" Korthal's fanged grin gleamed. "Of course. Tradition." The message was sent. Moments later, they received a reply. A single, calm human voice. "Hi there. We've reached Earth Customs and Border Enforcement. Please hold while we process your declaration of war." The voice was polite, almost cheerful. And that was the first warning sign. The Galactic Council had heard stories, absurd ones, about humans. They were the species that built starships from recycled debris. They called their warships destroyers, but affectionately nicknamed them puppies. They held diplomatic talks by offering snacks and caffeine, which apparently increased aggression and honesty simultaneously. And they'd once, allegedly, nuked their own moon to test a theory. But no one really believed the horror stories. Not until the Threxians vanished. 3 days after entering Sol space, the entire Threxian armada simply stopped transmitting. No distress beacons, no escape pods, no wreckage. Just radio silence. The council convened an emergency session. Ambassador Kalash of the Valari clicked his mandibles nervously. Perhaps they encountered a solar storm. Or a black hole, another delegate suggested. Or perhaps, said the human representative, a smiling man named Ambassador Graves, they didn't read the sign. The room turned. Every eye focused on the human, who was calmly sipping coffee from a cup that read, "World's Best Negotiator." "Sign?" asked the chakra minister. "Yes," Graves said pleasantly. "It's on the border beacon. Bright red, big letters. Do not enter. Violators will be processed." "Processed?" hissed Kalash. "What does that mean?" Graves smiled wider. "It's a flexible term." He set down the cup and looked around the chamber, his tone still genial. "You see, we take border integrity rather seriously. You see, after a few centuries of uninvited guests, Mongols, Vikings, telemarketers, we learn to respond efficiently." The representatives exchanged nervous glances. "So," Graves continued, "if any of you are considering a search party for the Threxians, don't. Trust me, they've been handled." He said it like someone announcing the weather. The council didn't listen. Of course they never do. Within a week, another expedition was sent. A joint fleet from the Tavran Coalition and Yulma Republic, 2 of the galaxy's oldest powers. This time, they came prepared. Scouts, stealth drones, quantum jammers. They even brought a diplomatic observer, a Zithian scholar named Professor Rilfil, to understand the humans' primitive defense methods. He transmitted a live feed as they approached the Terran border. "Scanners indicate no fleet movements, no active defenses, merely a series of satellites with primitive coding patterns." He laughed. "Truly, the Threxians were fools. The humans have no—" Static. A few seconds later, the video returned, but now the screen was filled with text. "Terran border violation detected. Welcome, unauthorized guests. Your curiosity has been noted and logged. Please remain still while we process your declaration of war." And then, the stars vanished. For 47 hours, the Council received nothing but faint whispers from the fleet. Screams, echoes, someone shouting about fabrication swarms and gravity nets. Then silence, again. 2 fleets, gone. No debris, no returnees, no signals. The galaxy began to panic. Rumors spread that Earth was a fortress world disguised as a backwater, that their moon was artificial, and that the humans weren't native at all, just a containment species guarding something worse. And that their leader, this calm, smiling Ambassador Graves, wasn't a diplomat at all, but a warden. When the 3rd Fleet prepared to go, the Council demanded human supervision. "Ambassador Graves," said Chairwoman Zell, voice trembling, "if Earth truly wishes peace, prove it. Accompany the task force. Show us that this border of yours isn't a death trap." Graves smiled pleasantly. "Of course, always happy to provide a tour." The Joint Task Fleet entered Sol space under his guidance. The first few hours were calm. Graves chatted amiably, sharing facts about Earth's oceans, food, and historical catastrophes. At one point, a Tavran officer interrupted. "Ambassador, why are your satellites facing inward instead of outward?" "Oh, those aren't satellites," he replied. He sipped his coffee. "Those are reminders." The officer blinked. "Reminders of what?" Graves turned to the viewport. The reflection of Earth gleamed in his eyes like a cold blue gem. "That we used to be worse." The fleet soon detected strange signals, rhythmic pulses from near Neptune. "Is that music?" a sensor officer asked. "Yeah," Graves said. "Old habit. We like soundtracks." As the pulses grew louder, the fleet's sensors scrambled. Space itself began to distort, tiny gravity wells appearing in perfect sync with the beat. The Tavran admiral shouted, "What is this?" "Defense grid activation," Graves said. "Auto mode." "You triggered it?" Graves chuckled softly. "Oh no, you did. Your stealth drone just crossed the quarantine line." He raised his wristcom. "Attention Terran Defense AI. Incoming fleet designated Friendly Curious. Please issue standard warning." The speakers across every ship crackled. A calm female voice spoke. "Welcome, visitors. You are now entering restricted Terran territory. For your safety, we will now demonstrate the concept of kinetic diplomacy." Space ignited. Thousands of shards of light erupted from nowhere, autonomous drones folding out of hyperspace like knives from a magician's sleeve. They didn't fire lasers. They didn't broadcast threats. They simply moved, ripping through ships at relativistic speeds, leaving nothing but glittering trails of molten metal. The fleet scattered in chaos. Graves remained seated, unflinching, as alarms blared. He even smiled as one ship exploded outside the viewport like a dying sun. "Relax," he said gently. "She's just making a point." Within minutes, half the fleet was gone. The survivors screamed for retreat. "Tell your AI to stop," the Tavran admiral begged. "I can't," Graves said, rising from his chair. "She doesn't take orders from me anymore. She takes them from protocol." He straightened his tie, his tone suddenly grave. "You crossed into what used to be Earth's graveyard. We left it unguarded for a reason." The admiral stared at him. "What reason?" Graves looked out at the swirling light of drones converging on a Threxian wreck. and smiled sadly. To remind the galaxy what happens when you ignore warnings. The fleet limped back to council space, what was left of it. Their testimony caused uproar. Every species demanded answers. Was Earth creating superweapons? Were humans planning expansion? What gave them the right to seal off an entire sector of space? Ambassador Graves appeared again before the assembly, as calm as ever. "My friends," he said, "you misunderstand. Earth doesn't want expansion. We just get nervous when people knock without calling first. It's a boundary issue. You know how it is." The laughter that followed was uneasy. Over the next few months, strange